Hey everyone, Stephanie Robilio here, licensed clinical social worker, published author, and the chief clinical officer at Agape Behavioral Healthcare, and you are tuning into the Mindful Living podcast. Hi beautiful ones, and welcome back to the Mindful Living podcast. Today we are going to totally unpack stress. As you know, I recently published a new book, Unpack Your Bags. And in this book, I guide you as you not only identify the weight of your past that you're carrying, but I also guide you to really get clear about what's in the bags of stress, guilt, shame, fear, anxiety, depression, and a whole lot more. So for the intention of today, I want to unpack stress with you. Let's start by understanding what stress really is. Stress is the body's natural response to perceived threats or challenges. And when in small doses, stress can actually be beneficial. Stress, we know it motivates us to take action and it helps us to overcome obstacles, right? It's kind of like that fire within us that gets us going. But the problem is when stress becomes chronic and overwhelming, meaning it's going on and on and on every day, beyond just small doses, it can take a toll not only on your physical and emotional health, but also your mental health and even your spiritual health. So one of the key reasons why carrying the weight of stress is unhealthy is it has a direct impact on our mental health. And for those of you who know me, you know that I often talk about how I all believe we are so worthy and deserving of feeling our best, but with that means we must hold ourselves accountable and get really clear about where is our stress coming from and what are we willing to do about it, right? What are we willing to do to reduce our stress? Because the truth is, chronic stress will lead to anxiety, depression, and even other mood responses. And it can also disrupt not only the relationship with yourself, but also others, including your work-life balance, right? There's nothing fun about living in a constant state of stress. And that's because the truth is, when we're stressed, we don't feel good. It impacts our judgment. It totally takes away our ability to concentrate, right? Because we're flustered, we're overwhelmed, we're operating in a frantic, chaotic energy. And then it disrupts our sleep patterns, maybe even our appetite, all of which leaves us feeling exhausted and depleted. And as they say, you can't pour from an empty cup. And when you're not addressing your stress, it's like trying to pour into your cup, but there's a hole in the cup, right? Like if you're not really looking at what is the root cause of your stress, and not only the root cause, but how are you contributing to your stress, then you're pouring into a cup that has a hole in the bottom, which basically says it's not sustainable, right? You can make all the efforts in the world to pour into your own cup, fill yourself up. But if that hole's in the bottom, then nothing's going to truly stick. And then all you do is stay in the cycle of stress. And so it's really, really important to address your stress, because not only does stress impact or affect our mind, but we also know that it can manifest in our bodies. I know for me, there was a time where my neck and my shoulders were constantly hurting. The amount of money I spent chasing massages, chiropractor, acupuncture, yoga, I was doing all the things, even Reiki, and I still had this constant tension. And sure, by doing those practices, it gave me some relief in the moment, but it wasn't long lasting. And what I realized is that my body was carrying stress. My body was trying to get my attention. It was trying to talk to me. And because I was ignoring the root cause and I was just using the Band-Aid method, which was the massage, chiropractor, and acupuncture and so on, I never really healed from the inside out. And that's really important to highlight. We can use the Band-Aid method, right? People do this all the time, every day. But again, if you're not addressing the root cause and you're just relying on the Band-Aid method, then you're not actually healing from the inside out. And in order to really feel and become your best, you must heal from the inside. And when we're under stress, our bodies release hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, and this prepares us for fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And while obviously these trauma or stress responses are necessary in emergencies or real danger, the prolonged exposure to these hormones can lead to a number of physical problems, such as high blood pressure, heart disease, digestive issues, and even autoimmune responses. And, I have met so many people who say, oh, I always have migraines, or I'm always having a headache, or my sleep is horrible, or my appetite is always poor, or, I feel like I'm constantly stuck in the hamster wheel of life. And those are signals that your body's in a state of stress. So again, in previous episodes, I've talked about how our body uses signs, symptoms, and sensations to communicate. And it's our responsibility to slow down and ask our body, what are you trying to tell me? What can I do to support you? What changes do you need to make, right? So I want you to join me for a moment and imagine that you're carrying a bag or backpack that's filled with rocks everywhere you go, big, heavy rocks. The longer you carry it, the heavier it feels, weighing you down and draining your energy. That's exactly what chronic stress does to us. It becomes a heavy burden that we carry every single day, day in and day out, impacting every aspect of our life. And so if you were actually going through life carrying a bag or a backpack, at some point you would make a conscious effort to put it down because you'd be exhausted, right? You'd be tired. But here's the deal. When it comes to things that we can't see, right? We can't always see our mental health, and we can't always see stress. We can feel it, but we can't see it. It's not a material thing. It's this unseen thing that's within us. For whatever reason, we prolong putting the bag down. We don't give ourselves permission to put the bag down. We don't ask somebody for help or for support. And that's the problem. So today, if you take nothing else out of this episode, I hope that you walk away giving yourself permission that you are allowed to put down the bags that you're carrying. In this case, we're specifically talking about the bag of stress. You are allowed to put down the bag of stress. Now, that doesn't mean your stress is going to go away completely. No, that's not what it means. If you figure that out, call me, DM me, because I need to know how to do that. No, that's not what it means. What it means is that you are being intentional and aware. When you practice awareness and when you stay in the place of intention and you notice you're carrying stress that you don't need to carry, you make a conscious effort to let it go, right? So that question will always be, what can you do to lighten the load and alleviate the weight of stress? And that's really the answer. It's making a conscious effort to put it down. And in order to do that, it's crucial to recognize your own warning signs of stress and acknowledge the impact that it's having on your life. When you ignore or deny stress, all it does is prolong the suffering, and it can actually truly cause serious health issues. As they say, there's that saying, stress will kill you. And I don't want to make light of something that's very serious, because that's so much more than just a quote that, our loved ones, our grandparents, and people we know have been saying. That's the God's honest truth. Stress literally will kill you. Because again, as I mentioned before, when you're living in a constant state of stress and your body's releasing frequent daily cortisol nonstop, along with adrenaline and other hormones, your body goes into overdrive, and it sends your blood pressure through the roof, and it causes all kinds of physical responses that the body's really not meant to handle. And so again, remembering a stress response makes sense within the context of a real danger or threat. But to just wake up stressed before your day has even started, that's not healthy at all. And so I want to invite you guys to really think about, how can you start to prioritize self-care and establish healthy coping mechanisms, right? So these are things like practicing mindfulness. If you've been connected with me for a moment, you know that mindfulness is the practice that not only changed my life more than 10 years ago, but it's also the practice that I see creates miracles in the lives of amazing humans that I get to work with. Mindfulness is an amazing way to reduce stress. Why? Because mindfulness teaches you how to live in the present moment and how to see life and accept life for as it is, rather than what you think it should be. More often than not, we cause our own stress because we come up with a narrative of how we think a situation is supposed to be. But the truth is, a situation is just a situation, and it doesn't have to become a problem unless we make it a problem. That's something really big to think about. Also, relaxation techniques. So deep breathing, meditation, yoga, or even doing things that you love. Maybe it's going on a walk in nature. Maybe it's swimming in the ocean. Maybe it's going on a hike. Maybe it's swimming in the pool. Maybe it's riding your bicycle or reading your favorite book. Maybe it's coloring, drawing, painting. Maybe it's doing nothing, right? It's just laying in bed and chilling out, which is totally cool. Whatever it is, find the space or create the space to bring more relaxation, joy, and fulfillment to your days. And the biggest one is setting boundaries, right? Like this actionable step is a game changer. When you are committed to protecting your peace, you will set boundaries, you will learn to say no, and that's just it, right? Why? Because when peace is a priority, it makes having boundaries very easy. And it's important to remember it's okay to prioritize your well-being and take a step back when needed. It is so important to remember that. I know for myself, if I'm completely honest, which I try to be fully transparent with you guys, even when it's uncomfortable, I'm that person who goes. I do. I give, right? It's so hard for me to slow down sometimes, but you see what happens is because I overextend myself, I take on way more than I can handle at times. And the truth is, I even struggle with saying no when it comes to certain people and situations. I find myself contributing to my own stress. And that's not good, because then what happens is that leads to having guilt, right? And that's a whole other podcast. But that's the most important thing to realize, is that when we are not prioritizing our mental health, protecting our inner peace, then we usually feel bad about it, right? So that's that guilt comes into play. And then it can get even messier and we can fall into the bag of resentment. And so you see, all of this is a cycle. And then when we're in the bag of resentments, next thing you know, the shame is being fed. And before you know it, because we didn't face and address our stress, now we're sitting here with all these bags, right? We have stress, we have shame, we have resentments, we have guilt. And now going back to that backpack example I talked about, right? Like now we're really weighed down, because what once weighed, let's just say 15 pounds, now it weighs 50 pounds. And it's for no other reason other than we didn't set the boundary. And I'm saying this for you as a reminder and for myself as a reminder. It is our responsibility to set boundaries. Nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody's going to do it for me. And so don't be afraid to set that boundary. And then, as always, seek support from your healthy friends, family members, and even professional help if you need it. We know that mental health professionals can provide an amazing support guide roadmap to help you navigate through stressful times. So if you're at that point where you're really feeling overwhelmed and it's beyond what a family member or a loved one can do for you, then I invite you with love to make that courageous call and ask for help, because you deserve to feel your best. And, you know, I want to make sure that I'm very clear in saying stress isn't a bad thing. Stress, again, it motivates us, it protects us, it keeps us safe. What I believe is the most important is becoming aware of your stressors and then implementing a practice such as mindfulness or some other method to really support you in learning how to respond to your stress rather than react to your stress. Right? We know when we're reacting, we're running around like a firefighter just trying to put out fires. Meanwhile, we're the one on fire. And when you become the responder, not only do you not catch on fire, but you're not in an environment where there's fires to put out because you're responding. And one of my favorite quotes is, change the world inside you, change the world around you. And I think that's a beautiful way to kind of wrap this episode up in just remembering that if we are living in a state of stress from the inside, then of course, every person, every place, every situation, every event, every moment is going to be perceived as stressful. But if we can make a commitment to stay in the energy of calm, centered, collected, and protect our inner peace, making our inner peace a priority, then every person, every place, every situation, every moment outside of us is going to reflect that. Why? Because the outer world is a reflection of our inner world. So here's to identifying our stressors and transforming them all into self-love. And here's to having the courage to unpack our stress so that we can put the weight down, release ourselves, and set ourselves free, understanding every single one of us deserves to feel free and be our very best starting now. Until the next time, so much love. Thank you so much for being here with me today. If you found today's episode to be insightful and inspiring, drop me a review so together we can help the next person, and come connect with me on social at Stephanie Robilio and find all of my books on Amazon. Until the next episode, stay mindful and always remember the power that lives inside of you.